Then I started doing pilots, got fired from my first pilot, the second pilot.
Wait, you got fired?
I got replaced on this pilot on the WB called Off Center.
Why? What did you do?
Someone at the network didn't like my face or something. Yeah. Hey, here's our tea.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Thank you.
Everything worked out okay.
The big question is kind of how you got to where you are. You've had a pretty good run. 9 years
Thanks.
on How I Met Your Mother is probably how most people know you.
Uh-huh.
I realize that's not your whole...
Yeah.
Want to talk about how that's not your whole life? But
I mean, we can. Yeah.
Is it good or bad if I tell you that I watched all 9 seasons with my husband?
That's complicated. I actually love meeting people who've never seen the show because
Okay.
I feel like
That's not me.
they're coming at me,
Yeah.
and I can. But I also love that people love the show, and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you without that show.
True.
So I have a lot of gratitude for it. But it's one of those things where there's my career from now on is always going to be on some level a response to having
Ted
done that
Mosby.
for so long. So when I was looking for roles post that, it was like no single guys in big cities. Like that was kind of a
You're
rule.
looking for something different.
Different.
Let's go back for a second. You grew up in Ohio.
Yeah,
Outside
Columbus.
Columbus, right?
In Columbus, essentially, yeah.
Okay. And your family, is it a theater family? Do you
No.
I thought I read that your mom was a guidance counselor.
Yeah, she
your
was
dad-
for
what did your
years.
dad
My dad
do?
was a trial lawyer. He's now retired.
So no Hollywood.
No.
So how on earth do you get here? How do you go from
Well, that was
kid
part
in
of the
Columbus?
challenge because I didn't know anyone who was in the business. I didn't have like the aunt,
Right.
the kooky aunt I could call
It's not
or
like
something.
your dad got you casting
No,
auditions.
no. That's actually a great source of pride for me that I didn't kind of have those connections
Yeah.
and was able to.
In high school, is there a moment where you just went, "Ah, this is what I'm going to do"?
Yeah, it was the second musical I did was Cabaret. I played the MC, and I had my guidance counselor at the time. Her name was Donna Oreski. She came up to me after the play and she's like, "You got to come see me first thing Monday morning." So I went into her office.
And are you thinking you're in trouble?
Well, she was stern, right? And she said, "You are never allowed to stop acting." She said, "Even if you become a lawyer, you need to do community theater." And she made me promise her. It was like this very intense moment. And I had a lot of people. The thing that's so sweet about doing Rise is I had so many mentors along the way who believed in me when I kind of didn't believe in myself. They just thought I could do this,
Yeah.
And
They encouraged
you
you.
can't overstate how important it is to have someone see something in you that
Right.
you maybe don't see yet
Yeah.
and pull it out of you. So I had a lot of that. I mean, I didn't know how hard acting was or not. I mean, I knew that everyone talks about, like I had an uncle when I was moving to New York say like, "I hope you're good at waiting tables." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's this
But
cultural
you're young
idea.
and you're kind of naive about it, right?
Kind of, but I still was terrified. I still had a lot of anxiety about it. And then, but getting into NYU helped
Yeah.
with the confidence.
First acting, like real acting role was?
I understudied at Manhattan Theater Club right when I got out of school and took over a role. The actor left, so I got to play a role off Broadway at this great theater for 3 weeks. I got my equity card through that.
That's good.
Didn't work for a couple months, got a job at Baltimore Center Stage. Didn't work for a lot of months, got another theater job, started to get little TV guest spots.
Yeah, you were like a kind of recurring guest on some
I did
things,
some
right?
guest stuff, and then I started doing pilots. Got fired from my first pilot. The second pilot.
Wait, you got fired
I
from
got replaced on this pilot on the WB called Off Center.
Why? What did you do?
Someone at the network didn't like my face or something. Yeah. Hey, here's our tea.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Thank you. It's
Everything worked
perfect.
out okay.
It worked out all right.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was
Is
a
it one
good
of those
thing.
blessings in disguise?
100%.
Yeah.
But it was.
Thank you.
It was a great moment. It was one of those moments where you kind of realize how strong you are. Because I could have said, Hollywood rejected me, TV
Yes, thank
rejected me.
But that's interesting because I think every time I've talked in the drink to successful people, they have these moments.
Enjoy it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. These setbacks and these
Yeah.
forks in the road where it's like, oh crud, I just
Yeah.
got cut from the pilot.
Totally.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, they're
And-
super important. They're like they're those that which doesn't kill you
Makes you
moments.
strong.
Yeah. Because when people say like, oh, I'm afraid of doing this because I'm afraid I'll fail, and it's like failure is guaranteed. Like 100% you're going to fail. It's just a matter of like, can you string together those failures so it turns into something called success.
How do you get How I Met Your Mother? Do you find them? Do they find you?
I had developed a reputation as an actor who was very selective about what I would even audition for. That my agent at the time encouraged me. She said, the only power you have right now is no.
Okay.
So say no when you don't like something. And I've always had a good sense of like what material I could meet and do well at.
Yeah.
So I read that pilot. It was sent to me by my agents,
Yeah.
and I read it, and I immediately knew how to play the guy. I immediately knew where the pitfalls were. I knew how to get the feeling of it without tipping too much into sentimentality. I knew how to get the funny without being too goofy or broad. Like, I just understood the tone they were going for. And then Carter and Craig, who created the show, told me this, later after I'd gotten the role, that the casting director said, look, I have your Ted, but he's very picky. He doesn't like to come in and audition for a lot of stuff. So I came in, I was the first person they saw on the first day, and to them I was like some big star who was like gracing them, because
Really?
I had this reputation. They said, oh, he's coming in to read for us, this is amazing.
Wow.
And I remember it was pouring rain, and I had a great audition, and Pam Fryman was in the room, who directed all the episodes, Rod Greenberg, another producer, and Carter and Craig, and Carter's from Cleveland and I'm from Columbus, so there was that connection.
Connection there.
And I think I had a test deal by the time I got to my car. Like, it just—
I don't know what that means.
It means that it's moving forward, that you have to
Okay.
you have to audition for the studio network to get approved. So all this stuff, I found that—
So it happens really fast.
when
in a sense.
it's working, it's happening
Yeah.
really fast. Otherwise, you're like, they have you on hold, or you're in a list of other people that
Right.
they like. But
And
I was the only person they ended up bringing to the network.
How old
so.
were you at that time?
I think I was 29.
I have this feeling like you probably had no idea what was about to happen.
Not
to
really.
you.
It was my fourth pilot that I shot. I had every version of a pilot happen except it going and being
Right,
a
being
successful
actually
show.
sold to the network and put on TV.
Yeah. So there's no way that you can have confidence when you're shooting a pilot. Like, I think this thing will go for 208 episodes. Like, that's one of those weird
9
anomalies.
years.
Yeah. And then that happened, and then then your life changes in a lot of ways, and you also have to fight on some level to adapt to those changes while holding on to your sanity.
You've talked about that a
Yeah.
lot. Go ahead, have some tea.
I'm going to sip this tea.
I saw an Ink talk that
Yeah.
you did, which is a conference in India, right? You went over to India and you talked about fame
Yeah.
and how it can be hard. It can be challenging.
But the strangest thing happened. As the show got more successful, I got more depressed. That was a very delicate talk to write, because it's a bit of a taboo thing. Like, you're just supposed to say, like, this is wonderful.
You're famous,
It's
shut
like,
up.
yeah,
Right.
it's like you're not allowed to complain,
Right.
because we're giving you all this stuff, and don't be ungracious.
Right.
But I know a lot of people that are very visible and very successful, and there's always some pain, some confusion that accompanies it, especially at the beginning. I would say the first 2 seasons, I found myself being— I was a little grumpy and a little— I had a hard time accessing the gratitude. What it did do for me, and I'm endlessly grateful for this, is I was able to puncture a lot of illusions and myths about like what would make me happy. It was like, well, money didn't do it, or getting a house didn't do it, although I like my house. Fame doesn't do it. Women don't do it necessarily. I mean, not the,
You're not married right now.
I'm
right?
not.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
not.
just to be clear.
Yeah,
Right.
So just so people don't think I'm like Ted. No, I'm kidding. But I found that there were certain things that the culture tells you, if you have this, you'll be happy.
Yeah.
And I found it didn't work that way.
Yeah.
So then I had to get down to the business of finding, well, what does? And I found meditating, and I found finding a community of people I really trusted and loved. Finding other things, creative things to do. I wrote and directed 2 movies. I write.
Words?
Yeah. Words.
So you're a writer, you're a director, you're an actor. Do you prefer any one of those roles?
Well, right now I'm preferring being a musician, because I started a band with my friend Ben Lee.
Oh, that's the other thing.
Yeah,
right.
so my favorite thing in the world right now is writing songs.
1 foot in front of the other, back to the arms of the great father mother.
I've never been super comfortable just saying I'm an actor, because I never felt like that is exclusively where I wanted to be. I always tell young actors this, or any actor, if you can write and create your own material, it's like a dereliction of duty not to do it, because who's going to write for you better than yourself?
Yeah. So given all the things that you were loving doing, how do you end up on Rise on NBC, this big, huge new show? How does that happen?
Well, They reached out to me. I got an email, and they'll tell you when you have offers or when people want to meet you. And so Jason Katims is doing this show, and I read the description. And Jeffrey Seller,
From Parenthood.
and Friday Night Lights,
Yep.
and I was a huge fan of his shows. Just his tone, I loved the vibe of his shows and the characters. And Jeffrey Seller from Hamilton was involved, who's a classy guy with good taste.
Yeah.
So all the elements felt, like I was going to meet him. And then I did meet him. I met him and his associate Michelle Lee, and we just had a terrific meeting. And I didn't know if he was meeting like 10 different guys or something. And, but by the time I left the room, I was like, ooh, I want to do that show. I want to do that show.
I heard that from one of your folks that they had seen the talk that you did in India.
Yeah.
And that was part of them reaching out to you.
I was told by Grace Wu, the head of casting at NBC, that they were bringing Jason a lot of material on me. I mean, he knew who I was, but he was trying to see some other stuff.
Sure.
And she found that talk in India, and she told me she sent it to Jason, and she said, "This is Lou, like this level of passion and introspection." Yeah, she just loved what the questions I was asking myself and how seriously I was kind of taking the life journey, right? Yeah. And so I asked Jason about it, and he said, no, it was a big deal for us, like when we saw that.
Do you believe in serendipity?
I certainly do. Yeah. I certainly do. I always have.
Yeah.
You get enough of those, and you start. To me, it's not any more mystical or woo-woo than saying like, I think I'm on the right path. Like this just feels like aligned in some ways. So
Lou, who you're playing on the show, they sent me a few episodes, so I was able to watch ahead, which was really cool. As a mom, I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old who are into musicals. I love the show for that reason, just because it's very relevant, and and it raises all kinds of questions that parents need to be talking to their kids about. So for me, we can watch it as a family.
I think it's a great show to watch as a family. Yeah.
For people who haven't seen it yet, what drew you to it? What is it about your character that you?
Well, like I said, I loved. I was a big Friday Night Lights fan, and I think that Jason, almost alone among television. I mean, he has such a special ability to create like just dimensional characters. It was the kind of stuff like the movies I used to love that don't get really made anymore. And they're now those kinds of stories have migrated to television. And I think Jason writes really complicated dimensional people who are just, you recognize them, you recognize yourself in them. He doesn't write a lot of like villainous characters. I mean, everyone is dimensional. Everyone has flaws, but they're it's aspirational, I think, which I like.
What's been the biggest obstacle?
My head, my stupid thoughts. That's all.
It's probably true of all of us.
Yeah, I mean that is the obstacle. I think once you really get down to it, and also not believing them. It's kind of like there's like a propaganda machine that kind of tries to take you down. At least I have one, where just pattern like negative thoughts, and kind of like swatting them away, and then choosing the good ones and holding on to the good ones. Like after I got fired from the pilot.
Right, the pilot, yeah.
Oh, you're not good enough for TV, they don't want you, you don't look right, you shouldn't do this. Swat them away. Like, maybe this is the best thing that ever happened to you. Maybe you're gonna be more careful about choosing pilots. Maybe, and I had to find the nourishing thoughts.
So the best advice you could give to a younger person watching, or even an older person watching who thinks, you know what, I could do that.
I think say yes to failure, and pick the good thoughts. That's not bad, huh?
That's not bad. Can we end on that?
Yeah, that's a good one.